What's up guys, Brady here, coming at you with a review of the new Moodring album Death Fetish that was released just this past Friday, March 27th. This is the second album by this band, and they intrigued me right away with their described sound as being reminiscent of kind of that early 2000s, late 90s nu metal type sound. The band's frontman Hunter Young, also of Psycho Frame, who I reviewed their album last year, this album was inspired basically by his struggles with illnesses, mental illness, physical illnesses, things of that nature. Which, you know, getting right to it, is something I respect a lot. I think it's something so many people can relate to, and reading up on him and just the inspiration behind this album, it definitely adds an extra kind of depth to the record. It's present lyrically quite a bit on here, most notably probably on the opening track, Half-Life. I mean, I'm living half a life now is the main refrain. That's pretty self-explanatory in this context. On paper, this record sounds like it would be right up my alley. But you guys know, I keep it real with you guys. I'm not really into this record. First of all, that kind of, that nu metal influence, like I mentioned, it is there in some of just the melodies on this record, but overall, I think this record shoots much more for a modern metalcore sound. I'm going to touch on several different points throughout this review as to why this record doesn't do a whole lot for me, but just know that despite any criticisms I have, I do have a lot of respect for this record, and I definitely see lots of potential. I think maybe the biggest, most overarching reason why I'm not really into it is just because, as opposed to the record sounding profound and deep and nuanced and introspective, purely on a musical level, I'm not really feeling it. Lyrics, sure, absolutely. Instrumentation, not a whole lot. On a purely musical, stylistic level, this album to me sounds like its primary goal was to get more listens, was to fit in with that ever so trendy modern metalcore formula. To put things into even more perspective, the majority of this album, like at least 3/4 of it, doesn't sound a whole lot different from like the President EP that dropped last year. And that's not even coming from a place of like hate for President. Like they get hate because they're an industry plant. But if you ask me, that EP got more hate than it deserved. It was just kind of just generic, you know, ultra uber overly produced metalcore. I overall didn't like it, but it had a few moments that I kind of did like. And I think my experience with this record is very similar. Take a song like Cannibal, for instance. Like, this is a track that just, it comes off a bit too radio pandering and a bit too robotic for me. Like, the melodies in this song, they sound like they could have been on like a Britney Spears song from 2005. The vocals on here even get like sing-songy at some point. And this to me contradicts the album trying to get deep and nuanced, like I mentioned. And structurally, like the nu metal influence riffing, I think, on this track is pretty decent, as is throughout the record. But the breakdown parts that come in are kind of underwhelming. And the song, it comes off kind of vanilla. The opener, Half-Life too, like I said, like I salute the lyrics of this song, but like the chorus, it's purely in its melodies and its structure and just how it sounds really generic. And as far as the vocal performance on this song, it gets to be a little melodramatic even at times, and it just sounds like it's being pushed a little bit too hard, like they're trying too hard with this song. But again, like that opening melody of the track, I actually like. That does bring to mind, to me, more of like that early 2000s influence. Later in the album, you get the track Bleed Enough, which jumped out to me again. It's just a little bland. It starts with like this industrial pulse and some raspy vocals that sound like, I don't know, Corpse Husband. It is catchy at points, but it has kind of like an awkward mood shift when it gets to the chorus. Just one of those songs where the heavier verses or the darker verses and the upbeat chorus just don't really sound like they fit together. Die Slow has some nice like atmospheric verses, but the melodies in this track, they sound so like familiar, so vanilla. Track 3, Masochist Machine. Like again, the chorus, the melodies, just they sound kind of goofy, they sound pretty poppy, even almost sugary at times. Gunplay, Suicidal 3-Way. That chorus, it sounds like Walmart Motionless in White. I'm sorry, but it just does. But again, it's got a cool opening melody. The verses have like this sludgy element to them that I like. Notice how with like all of these tracks, there's elements that I like, but there's also elements that I don't like. And sometimes these songs like this and albums like this are the most frustrating because the potential is there, like I mentioned. It's just that most of these individual tracks are just really mixed bags. Like I don't think there's any song on here that is fully bad all the way through. There's just a lot of parts that sound incohesive, parts where, you know, one part sounds great, another part sounds a little bit dull, a little bit drab, a little bit uninspired. Again, like on the musical and instrumental level here. Another thing, probably the other main thing that really irks me about this record, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the points I've been making, is that it's way too overproduced. In fact, I think this album, the production and the sound of this record, takes from literally all of my pet peeves when it comes to modern metalcore production and shoves them in my face. Like the guitar tone on this record. I mean, it's so muddy. It's so synthesized. Like, and as a result, I feel like the riffs, they don't really hit that hard. Like, if these parts are hitting hard, it's not because of the guitars. It's because of the drums, and it's because of the bass. And it just feels like it's the same exact guitar tone as 90% of the other modern metalcore albums that we're hearing. And maybe even more frustrating, the vocal production on here. I mean, the vocal performance on here most of the time is great, especially the unclean vocals. I think the screams on this record were delivered fantastically. But everywhere else, like I'm listening to these songs, especially in like the more quiet parts with those moodier clean vocals, and like I'm just thinking to myself, why are there so many fucking effects on the vocals? They do not need them. Hunter Young sounds great on this record without all of the studio gloss that's thrown and caked onto these parts. Which, once again, these are very similar criticisms that I had for the President EP last year. The drums sound good on here, I guess, and you know, the bass I think does its job in that it gives the songs a lot of good bottom end, and it kind of blends together that really synthy guitar tone and makes kind of everything jump out at you a little bit more, but the vocals and the guitars on here, production-wise, are so frustrating to me. So as you can see, the combination of the album being overproduced and just the direction instrumentally of this album leaving a lot to be desired, just coming off a little bit bland, it severely impacts the potential for the emotional depth of this album to really hit here for me. But, you know, the album does have its moments, for sure. I like the track Anywhere But Here. That's a track where the emphasis does seem to be on building a certain atmosphere and building a certain mood. The track even gets, like, somewhat repetitive lyrically, but I actually like it. I think it kind of drives the song home for you. The closer on here, Cold Metal Kiss, which, you know, forgive the kind of cringy title. Even though like some of the melodies feel like a little familiar, I think this is another track that accomplishes its goal. The fact that it's mostly melodic all the way through, I think really works in its favor and kind of switches things up. And then even when the track gets heavier later on, it still feels cohesive. This is definitely one of the better executed mood shifts on this album. And yeah, like that groovy nu metal riffing on tracks like Cannibal and STFA and Sick Fuck, I think works pretty well. STFA also has like this blatant corn part that comes in later that I think works pretty well. I like when a band can kind of nod to one of their inspirations like that. You have the track Ketamine, which I think I like the purpose it serves, just being kind of like a more like atmospheric, like poppy break. It doesn't quite deliver for me fully. It is pretty much a full-on pop song, and I think the melodies get kind of repetitive with this track. But I like what they went for here, and some of the melodies themselves, before they get repetitive, do sound pretty nice. And yeah, lyrically, I feel you could pretty much point at any track on here and find something meaningful being said. And I wish that the music matched that. It doesn't for me on here. Overall, I wish that the focus, like from all the band members here, instrumentally and on the production front, was more focused on actually matching that energy and having a profound, introspective, emotional, deep sound to it, as opposed to trying to fit in with that, that trendy, younger audience leaning modern metalcore sound. It lacks the substance I was looking for on here, and the nostalgia at times. Like, I appreciate how the album definitely is kind of taking nu metal and modernizing it and pushing the genre forward. That's also something I respect about it, but the album just doesn't hit me on an emotional level like I hoped it would. But, like, no shade to these guys. I respect this album. I respect what the album stands for and the inspiration behind it. It just doesn't quite do it for me like I hoped it would at the end of the day. For all these reasons, I'm going to score this album a 10 out of 30. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Remember to give the video a like, comment below what are your thoughts on this album, and hit the subscribe button for more rock and metal related content and album reviews. And until next time, I will see you guys later. Peace.